Now, this episode is quite different and a bit more of what this whole podcast was meant to be. The idea of the name is from the Luganda word that means conversation. So it was to be Beizzo's Kiboozi, and it could be like, in English, it would be like Beizzo's conversations. So in this episode, I want to talk about the ideal conversation. It has been quite a tough podcast to make, and most of the things I was bringing out were more of you. It was like I was advising someone. It wasn't sort of a conversation like I'm talking to a fellow friend or someone that is close to me. So I thought of going back to the basics and understand, why did I actually call this podcast Beizzo's Kiboozi? Because I wanted it to be a conversation, and a conversation that was to go into different parts of life: the social life, the spiritual life, the financial, physical, and all that, and all of it feeding into the idea of Beizzo's Kiboozi. Now, back on conversations, because that's what this episode is all about. I want to start by saying that we all know that people do not remember what you said, but rather remember how they felt. We know this is a quote from Maya Angelou, and I believe this is the reality of life. Because personally, I remember how you made me feel. I don't remember what you said. I'll remember what you said later, but the way you said it, how did it affect any emotion in my life? That's how I will remember you. So, that's what this whole podcast episode is about. And let's dive in and understand how best we can frame a better conversation. And I believe it will help me, it will help you to build better convo, to build better relationships. Because personally, I believe that behind every conversation is a miracle. If you want that very good relationship, if you want that hard deal, you want to make serious money in life, you want to go to the next part of your life, you want to bargain for a higher salary, it's all a conversation. So, let's listen up, let's grow together. This is Beizzo's Kiboozi. This is Beizzo's Kiboozi. Now, in my lifetime, I've realized that people do actually have a small gap for you in their mind. So it's all about how they remember you, or how best can you enter that small gap in their minds. And people remember feelings. People do remember feelings. They don't remember the things you said. Like Maya Angelou said, that people will remember how you made them feel. And we all know this. We've all had this. So you ask yourself, how and why do some people have good conversations and others do not? And actually, these are skills that we can actually all learn, you and me, because the internet has put them out there, life has put them out there, good conversation guys have put them out there, and we all know all things in life start with a conversation. So we need to work on conversations. I need to work on conversations. Yeah, it is the Kiboozi, that kajaz, that moves you to the next level. Some people are actually naturally great conversationalists, if that's even a word. And you can find a guy, he keeps talking, keeps you engaged. You feel very, very, I don't know. You feel like the guy is going to leave a lasting impression on you. Most times, some of these people are comedians. They have a sense of humor. They just make you laugh. And even time passes by and you don't realize, yet you're just caning jazz with this person. Or I would say you're just in a conversation with this person. And that's because they have a few things with them that I feel we could also catch up. One of the things they have is that they have a good sense of listening to you. For every guy who does know how to converse with you, you'll find they pick out those things and you feel like they're listening to you. And the more you feel someone is listening to you, the more you keep talking, the more you keep talking, the more you keep talking. And they have very good questions. Very, very good questions. And most of these people bring energy and curiosity to every conversation. It is something we can all always pick up and see. And yeah, people who do have good conversations make you feel interesting. From nowhere, you start, I think maybe I'm also, my life is not so bad. And yet this person is just because they know how to make you feel interesting. They know how to listen to you. They know how to ask very good questions. They have the right energy. And yeah, for all conversations to be engaging and have that good feel, there are rules that go to it. For you to be very, very good at conversations, you have to be generally curious. You don't force it. Ask the right questions. Do not just talk about yourself, because I always wanted to make an episode on that. Why do people always want to talk about themselves? Always talk, even when they're not being listened to. Like this podcast. I love to talk, even when people are not listening. But yeah, I know this will come up and be something bigger in the future. But going back to the episode, yeah, you don't need to just talk about yourself. You need to be curious to hear what that person is saying, so that you can keep the conversation going. You don't just have to think about what you're going to say next, because as you're thinking about what you're going to say next, you're not listening to what this person is saying. And so that conversation will be a one-way road of, okay, let me say something like that. Then you should also master the energy, or see what is that person doing that I can do, so that they feel comfortable conversing with me. That is what they call matching the energy. Mirroring. That thing they always say about trying to be in the right place in the conversation. Try to mirror what the person is doing. Mirroring what they are saying. Like at the end of every sentence, let me say they have been talking about their mother, then they say, oh, my mother is very, very, very caring. Oh, your mother is very caring. So that is how you mirror what they're saying, or you mirror the energy they bring. But don't overdo it, because when you overdo it, you look like you're forcing it and you look so funny. Because remember, all these things are just charisma. We are trying to build charisma. Whenever you try to build charisma and try to make it in excess, you tend to look funny. You tend to look like you're pretending. Then, and this is the most important thing, always tell stories. Always tell stories. Because someone told me that stories are the PDF version of life. You see, when you have a phone, you can open a PDF. When you have a laptop, you can open a PDF. You have an iPad, you can open a PDF. You have, what else? A PDF can be opened on every device. Every device. But you'll find, and it will look the same almost, but you'll find, let's say Excel, those PPTs, CSVs, they don't look the same. What am I trying to say? Stories being the PDF of life is that they can open in any mind. They can make sense in any mind. And that is the relation thing, the relating thing. Now, let me say you're talking to someone like me. If I'm talking about my job, let's say I'm in real estate, what. You should pick out a story in real estate. Let me make up a story. Let me say, you say, I one time took around a tenant who had a talking parrot. And, okay, this is too made up. As we were looking around the house, at the end of the walk, the parrot started to say, don't buy. You know those parrots speak. So that whole thing, that is a story, and people will remember that story in the conversation you made. Whether it was made up or what, the conversation you had, because of that story, it became more memorable. Wow. The other thing is that end on a high note. People always remember how you ended the conversation. Man, you can't just leave people in suspense. Okay, you can, because it creates a starter point for the next conversation. But remember, we're talking about how people remember the way you left them, the way you made them feel. So if you leave them in suspense, you give them that feeling of suspense. If you leave them on a dull note, you give them that dull sense. And even though the conversation was very good, if it ended on a bad note or a dull note, it would have ended as a bad note, as a bad conversation. So just think about it, because that's the whole essence of conversation. Now, one of the hardest things with conversations is keeping it flowing. Keeping it flowing, because man, you can do everything that I've said and then things are not flowing. The conversation is a rough one. But anyway, what is Beizzo's Kiboozi episode without some tips for you? Now, one of the tips I've learned over time is that give it a 70%-30 rule. That you let the other person speak 70% of the time, and then you speak 30% of the time. Now, in your 30% of the time, follow whatever I'd say. Be curious, ask good questions, things like that. But there are 70, let them talk. Let them talk, because people love to talk. Personally, I love to talk. And if I'm in a conversation with you, and most of the times you're talking, I feel like I'm being suppressed. So I feel very many people are like that. I don't know. I may have generalized, but very many people love to talk. Very many people love to be listened to. Do the listening and the conversations will be good. Then ask very good follow-up questions. I've said the other time, ask questions. This time, ask very good follow-up questions. Then in there, in the conversation, drop in those me too, that has ever happened to me. But don't overdo it, because sometimes you then suppress what this person is trying to say. You know those very annoying people. You say they have been to every place. They have done everything. You're giving your good story. You've picked all the ideas that I've given you. You're telling your good story. Then someone is there. Me too. Not like that example I gave of the parrot. Then this one also says, me too, I was with you. Then they kick you off on the conversation. Now, if you want people to keep listening to you, find a way of suppressing that person from speaking more. But not in a rude way. Yeah, because we are not ready to fight with people now. Now, the one other thing you can do is, if you forget what you had to say, let's say it was an interview or what, laugh it off and make it look so natural so that the other person thinks it was part of the presentation, not part of what you had to say in your convo. Now, if there is also an awkward pause, own it. You can say, "Hey man, damn, we have reached a pothole in the conversation. Things have gotten rough." Something like that. Own that awkward pause and people will laugh it off, and then you continue the conversation. Now, sometimes even the topics are boring. If a topic is very boring, just find a way of smoothly changing it. Otherwise, that's what I think you can do about having very good conversations, making sure that when you speak, people do actually listen. Other than that, my last takeaway would be, for every new person you meet, give him 3 seconds and initiate a conversation. Find something to talk about. Maybe their hair, their beard, their shirt they're wearing. If you know them, maybe something that you were talking about last time. Something like that. Start the conversation. Give it 3 seconds. If it's longer than 3 seconds, it's going to be awkward and you will not get the chance to start that conversation. Yeah, that is this episode. If you loved it, please leave a like, a subscription, whatever those guys do on those apps to support the content creator. Do it. Because man, we are trying to build something here, and I said we, yet it's only me, but I'm trying to build something here, and the more ears it picks on, the more people it helps, and the more we grow together. Other than that, I think that is it for this episode. Thank you for listening. Keep it at Beizzo's Kiboozi. See you next Monday.